Hey fam, Master Coach G here, thriving after 50, mind, body, soul. And in this episode, I am talking about different angles of exploring habits. I think that this is definitely worth the conversation because what I've come to learn is that most people don't fail because they're lazy. Most people fail because they underestimate the power of small things, small changes, developing small habits at a time. I think that most people think that when you think transformation, they usually think drastic. So that's what we're going to talk about today here on Thriving After 50. This is Master Coach G, and I will see you on the inside. Hey fam, Master Coach G here, thriving after 50, mind, body, soul. And in this episode, I want to talk about exploring the different angles of habits. I really think it's worth the conversation. So here's what I discovered as I'm trying to explore this subject is that most people don't fail because they're lazy. Most people fail because they underestimate the power of small things, small changes, not drastic. Because usually when most people think of transformation, they think of drastic. It's like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. It's like a new diet, a 6 a.m. wake up, a complete overhaul, and that's just not how you develop the habits. And so I want to explore that because I think that, there's different angles to this habit thing. And I think that the more understanding that we have on habits, I think it's better for us to be able to apply that. What's the point in hearing this information if you can't apply it? So I like to make it simple so that you can get an understanding so that you can apply it. I mean, that's really what it's all about anyway. So because we do understand that you can't make drastic changes like a new diet, waking up at 6 a.m. and just a complete life overhaul all at one time. The one thing that we do know is that doesn't work. Okay, those kind of changes don't work. They don't stick and stay. So what you want to do is you want to do small things, and that's how you develop the habits. Okay, because right now your life is a result of your habits. Yeah, let that sink in for a minute. Your life right now is a result of your habits. So whatever that is, whether it's relationships, whether it's parenting, whether it's finances, whether it's business, whether it's CEO of a company, whatever it is, it's a result of your habits. So, it can go either way, okay? So it's not just your goals, it's not just your intentions, it's your habits. Because you didn't get to where you are necessarily because of the goals or your intentions to get there. It's your habits that developed that got you there. So start with small things, like the glass of water that you didn't drink. Okay? Because you need to be aware of your habits. So think about the glass of water that you didn't drink, the walk that you skipped, the extra hour that you stayed up scrolling instead of sleeping, the conversations that you avoid, just small decisions, things that you repeat on a daily basis. And sometimes you don't even realize that it's a habit. What do I mean by that? Let me explain. Okay? Most people, I'm not going to say all, but most people have the habit every day of putting their sock on the same foot and their shoe on the same foot every single day. Now, that's not a habit that you would think that is really a big habit. But now that I brought it to your attention, when you put on your shoe again, look at what foot you're putting it on. And then the next time you do it, look at what foot you're putting it on. Okay? So what you're doing is you're becoming aware of that habit. So it's something small. Okay, but and that right there should really it really should excite you. The reason why I say it should excite you for just knowing that little piece is that now that you're going to pay attention to that, now you're going to be aware of some of the other things that you do. So, and as crazy as it sounds, thinking about putting your sock or your shoe on the same foot every day, as small as it is, but it's a habit that we create over a lifetime, and you've been doing it all your life since you've been putting on your shoes. So if small habits created your current life, then small habits can definitely rebuild it. If that's what you're looking for, not a complete overhaul, but if you're looking to rebuild, sometimes it's just like, when you live in a house, maybe the fence may get a little worn. So, sometimes you have to go out and rebuild a new fence, So, you can look at it that way, but you don't need a new personality. You don't need more motivation. You don't need to find yourself. You need a few small promises that you're going to make to yourself and have the courage to keep them, okay? Because healthy habits really isn't about perfection, and I think that, when people try to develop a new habit, they try to perfect it, and that's not what habits are, so they're not about perfection, they're about self-respect. It's like you're making yourself a promise and you respect yourself enough to keep that promise to yourself. That's what forming a habit is. So if you say, what, I'm gonna walk 2 days a week, and then in 30 days, I want to increase that from 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Okay, so you make that promise to yourself, and then respect yourself enough to do that. Show up for yourself. Okay, so instead of being up late at night scrolling, take the time to go to sleep, because your body needs to sleep. Okay, and we already know, that we're going to talk about the pillars. I mean, everything we're talking about right now still always goes back to the pillars. The water, the hydration, the sleep, the diet, okay, and the exercise. So I'm going to still cover all that. I don't think I ever do a podcast without covering those four. They're major, and so movement and exercise, yes, it may be a little bit uncomfortable when you start. I spoke with this lady, and she just started walking, and so she texted me afterwards, and she was saying, "No, it was really a challenge, but she got in 20 minutes, and that was a challenge for her. But the more she does it, the easier it's going to get. And but in the beginning, it's there's some discomfort there, but there's also growth. Okay." So you may not be comfortable, but you can rest assured that you are definitely growing, So what you're doing is you are saying to yourself, this is the person that I want to become. I want to become consistent with what I say I'm going to do, and I want to show up for myself. So today you're not just talking about dieting, you're actually doing something, and it's like, I'm going to add, a healthy snack instead of having chips. So it's those kind of things, those kind of adjustments. Again, it's just starting off small, just substituting one thing for something else. And I'm not saying that, it has to be something sweet. So, if you've been eating chips, and guess what, grab a banana or apple or, some kind of fruit or something to kind of keep you away from the, the other stuff, the processed food. Okay. So I'm not talking about an extreme routine either. I'm just saying, if you say to yourself, well, one day a week, I'm not going to eat no junk, So I'm not talking about extreme routine. I'm just saying that, just be aware, just like the shoe and sock thing, the same foot every day, so and that's not extreme, because it's something that you do. It's a routine. So, but in this case, you're just going to be aware of your routines. Okay. So the behavior that builds strong bodies and clear minds and have a confident life is one that has the awareness of your habits, because our habits is what create who we are. Our habits is what creates who we become. Okay. And those things are important. So here's the simple truth, is that your future isn't built on one big moment. It's built in the next small decision that you make. And it may be small, like I'm going to go for a 15-minute walk. That may seem small to you. But guess what? If you continue to do that over time, you're going to see some improvements, okay? Healthy habits are formed from self-respect because you're showing up for yourself and you're doing what you said you're going to do, okay? So this is how it would look, okay? So you don't work out because you hate your body, okay? You do not work out because you hate your body. You work out because you respect it. Okay, so let me give a better understanding of that. Okay, everybody knows that I go to the gym. I go to the gym because I'm thankful, number one, that I can get up out of my bed, I can get dressed, get in my car, and drive to the gym and be there for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 5 days a week. I respect my body enough that I don't put junk into it. You know, am I saying I don't have a snack? Hey, I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. I do it in moderation, though. But I have respect for my body because I know that my body is a temple. So I take care of my body. I have big respect for it because I know that some people are on medication. Some people can't get up early in the morning, and not be able to even go to the gym. So I'm thankful and I have enough respect for my body to get up and do that because I want to be healthy. So that's one of the habits that I have. So the other thing is that, people think it's like, oh, you go to bed at a certain time, you're disciplined. No, not necessarily. It's because I know that tomorrow I have to get up and be at the gym at 5:15 a.m. So that means I'm up by 4 a.m. to be ready to walk out the door and be at the gym by 5:15. So yeah, I don't go to bed early because I'm disciplined. I go to bed early because I know that I have to be up by 4 a.m. That's why I go to bed early, okay? And, and I know that people think it's funny. It's like, because usually my wind down time is 7 p.m. I'm chilling. I'm in chill mode. And by 8 o'clock, hey, I'm ready to go to sleep, because I've gotten rid of, I've relaxed my mind, I've relaxed my body enough to where now it's 8 o'clock, now it's time for me to go to sleep because I am required, my body is required, my body will let me know when I don't get 7 hours of sleep. So it's mandatory. And hey, there's nothing I can do about that. I just have to comply with what my body needs, and I'm going to do that, because it all works together. Okay, so your future self will thank you. You know why? Because your future self is watching you right now. So where are you going to be at in 5 years from now? So I want you to close your eyes and visualize what you're going to look like. How's your health going to be in 5 years from now? You hear the clock in the background ticking? I don't know if it is picking that up, but I was listening to. So, either you're gonna, be thankful for the struggle that you will go through at first, or you just will, the other side of that. Okay. Healthy habits should always be your goal. Okay, because healthy habits is who you are becoming. Okay, so you can say, I need to drink more water. I need to go for more walks. I need to have earlier evenings. I don't need to be up till 11 o'clock at night. So every time you say that stuff to yourself, what you're doing is you're changing your pattern. It's like, okay, so everybody probably more than likely this on this podcast is over 50 because it is geared toward people over 50. So I'm sure that everybody on this podcast probably remembers record players. Even if you were young, you probably remember a record player. And you had your 45s and then you had your albums, okay? You would handle those records with almost gloves on because you didn't want it to get a scratch on it because you knew it wouldn't play the same if it was a scratch on it, right? But what if you, on purpose, took a knife and scratched the record and you put it on the turntable to play the record, is it going to play the same now that it has a scratch in it? No. So the pattern changed. So that's why you need to say, you know what? I need to drink more water. I need to go for a walk. I need to have earlier nights. And I'm not saying you have to make those shifts all at one time. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, once you get one of those habits under control, whether it's more water this week, next week a walk, the next week going to bed early, however you have to do it, it's okay. As long as you do it, okay? Because it's the small things that makes your actions feel more meaningful. And not only that, you'll see the results. And to me, the results is like the biggest thing for me. I always tell people, which is my next subject about motivation. People will say, oh, I need to be motivated. I need to be motivated. You don't need motivation. You need momentum. Okay? You do not need motivation. You need momentum. And let me explain why. Once you get the momentum, with momentum comes results. Okay? The end goal is the results. Because let me tell you what happens when you get results. Okay? Let me tell you what happens when you get results. What happens is you start to look in the mirror and your confidence level goes through the roof because you look so good. Okay? So what did that was you continuing to work out. You had the momentum. You were getting it going. Motivation is emotional. In my opinion, it's emotional. Momentum is mechanical. Okay, so because when you go to the gym, you're moving. You're either on the treadmill, on the stair stepper, on the weights, whatever it is. That's mechanical movement. So momentum is mechanical. So you always want to focus more on momentum than motivation. You don't need motivation. Once you get that momentum and you start seeing that cut, you start seeing them guns, trust me, you're going to want more of that, okay? Because it's going to look good on you, so you're going to want to do it, okay? So the first workout is going to be hard. It's just going to be hard, okay? I can't change that. You can't change that, That's just the mechanics of, starting to work out. So yes, the first workout is going to be hard. But expect that going in, okay? But the fifth workout is going to be easier. So if you stick with it long enough, it'll be easier and easier, and then you'll start to see the results because now you got that momentum going, okay? The first early bedtime will probably feel like you're forcing it. You're probably tossing and turning because you feel like you can't go to sleep. So to make the adjustment, the first early bedtime, okay, if it feels like it's being forced, what you do the next night is, when you get in bed 1 hour. So if you say your bedtime is 10 instead of 11, then at 9 o'clock, you need to stop everything that you're doing. No more computer, no more phone, no more TV, total relaxation. Lay in your bed and just relax your body and relax your mind. Okay? That's what you need to do 1 hour before your bedtime. Because what will happen is, the more you do that, your body's going to become more calmer and you'll be able to go to sleep. And when you make that adjustment to changing because look at it this way. Every time the time changes, whether it goes up or it goes back, you feel the effect of that. So then you got to change your habits. So, which is kind of a good time to really actually change the habits. So you might want to think about that too. And I'm going to probably do an upcoming podcast on that because I think the time goes up in March the 8th, I believe it is. So I'm going to get one in about that before that change happens. Okay. But here's the thing. You need to chase momentum and not motivation. Okay. Look for the big Mo, not the little Mo. Big Mo is Big Mo, I call him Big Mo. Big Mo is momentum. Little Mo is motivation. Okay? Because motivation it's an emotion. You don't always feel that high. You don't always feel like, oh yeah, I'm pumped up, I want to go to the gym because hey, I've been doing it for a long time and trust me, I don't always feel like going. Wednesday is my day off from the gym. So I go Thursday and Friday. So I go Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I'm off on Wednesday. Then I go Thursday and Friday, and then I'm off on Saturday. But when I go back on Thursday, I go, every week, every month, for years. And it's sometimes, it's not the motivation. It's because I have the momentum of going and doing it. So I'm chasing the momentum. Plus, I like the results of it. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm just going to keep it real. I love the results. I like how I feel, number one. I like the fact that I'm not on any pharmaceutical drugs, not even over the counter. I love that, because I know my body is not being poisoned by stuff. It's bad enough I got to eat the food, but that's a whole nother subject. So, I'm healthy, and I thank God for that. So here's the thing that we need to understand about our life. And when I say life, I mean like our aura, our being, if you will, is that it's like an energy force, okay? And I know, I'm not trying to get deep on nobody, but, our body has energy. Our heart, it's you can put something electric to it and it can, restore itself. So there's something to that currency. And I know that if you get something out of the dryer and it has static in it, it will shock you, okay? So that's some form of energy. Okay, so yes, our bodies do have energy, but and our energy is really like it's like a force, if you will. It's like when I say a force, I mean something like money, because money is like it's a force. It's currency is a real thing. Just like energy is a real thing. But most people chase money and status and productivity. But energy is what fuels all of us. So we have to be mindful of the things that we do, because those things is what form the habits that we have. So we have to be mindful of that, okay? So what keeps us on full, as far as our fuel is concerned, our energy fuel, if you will. What keeps us full is like when we sleep better, when we move our bodies, when we eat real food, when we protect our mental health, because that's important. It's just as important as our physical health, okay? When we increase our daily energy when we have those things. That's why I tell you it's those 4 pillars, okay? Sleep, okay, moving your body, exercise, eating real food, okay, and of course we know that we need water. So, but the mental health thing, that's one added bonus that we have to pay attention to, that we have to be aware of, okay, and that is what increases our daily energy. Whether we have to show up as a parent or a partner or a leader or a friend, whatever, because I think here's the thing that we really have to understand. Healthy habits isn't just about, having the washboard stomach, having a 6-pack or 8-pack or whatever, It's not all about that, Disciplines, to me, is like a form of freedom, okay? And, and I think that when you have certain habits, you become disciplined in that area, which, to me, you can kind of become disciplined in all areas once you learn the mechanics of being disciplined. It has a formula like everything else, just like building habits, okay? But I also believe that discipline is really a form of freedom, because it hits hard when it comes to like being motivated, because you see a lot of content about motivation and and they pump you up and all that stuff, but I think having the structure to create the freedom, to create the discipline, okay? Like, number one, plan your meals, okay? Schedule your workout, protect your sleep. It's like, know what you're going to eat, for the whole entire week, okay? And schedule your workouts. You should say, okay, I'm going to work out 3 days a week. You should already know that. Okay, and make sure you're getting, the proper sleep that your body that's required. Our bodies go through, our organs go through a lot of things throughout the day, and they have to reset themselves. In order for them to do that, they do have to have, our body has to be at a rest state. So that kind of, it reduces the chaos that can go on inside our bodies. And then we just, when we're not tired, we make better decisions. So we need to stop negotiating with ourselves, and really feel that mental freedom, because that's really where all our energy flows, is right there. Okay, stop waiting to feel ready to look at working, coming up with a schedule, something concrete, making promises to yourself. Stop waiting to feel ready for that. Make the commitment and jump in with small habits. Nothing drastic, but stop waiting to feel ready. Nobody feels ready. Okay. The people that you admire, they may act like they're busy or whatever, but even sometimes they're not ready. But the more you do it, the more confidence you're going to have, because that's what you're building throughout this. This whole thing is the action that you're putting forth is, about building. You're building the habits, you're creating the habits and the routines, and that's just one of the angles that we're talking about here when we talk about habits. Okay, you have to start before you feel like it. Okay, because that's going to build your confidence, and if it doesn't, believe me, confidence will catch up. I promise you. And you may not feel as confident as you may want to in the beginning, but trust me, when you start looking in the mirror and you see the transformation of your body, trust me, the confidence will catch up real quick. I promise you that. Because, and here's the other thing. If you make a mistake or if you fall off, and we all do, the comeback is what matters. That matters more than the mistake. Okay? Because we all gonna make mistakes. None of us are perfect. I'm dealing with some muscle strain right now because I did something new with my workout, and I kind of went a little bit overboard with the band. I had a band, and so I really just and I strained my lower back muscles, and so it's been a discomfort, and it's not a point of falling off. It's just a matter of now using wisdom, saying, hey, I need to take the time to go through the healing process, so, and to me, that right there, I don't have to feel stuck. I know that I have to recover at my own speed. Number one, I'm 68, so I'm not going to recover as quickly as I used to. However, I will make sure I'm continuing to take my supplements, and I try not to miss that many workouts. I just have to do it in moderation. I have to modify my exercises now until, my strain is better, and if I feel like I don't need to do it, then I won't do it, but doing small things is going to make the healing process better. Okay, then when we talk about our eating, do we have a bad food day? I think we all do, but for the most part, I think that eating clean, is probably one of the best things that we can do. It's almost like a reset. When you talk about eating clean, I love like G bombs. I like kale, spinach, collard greens, mustard greens, all mixed together. And I'll eat that for like 5 days because I just feel like, I need to reset. So to me, that's like 5 to 7 days of, eating clean. I'm not putting anything else in my body except for, all that protein, which is great. Of course my body needs it. But, this is a message for you to feel and to know that, guess what, none of us are perfect, and we're not striving to be perfect. We're striving to develop better habits, healthier habits. Okay, so start off in the morning, and set, because the mornings sets the emotional tone for your whole entire day. Okay, so for the first 20 minutes in the morning, don't grab your phone. I know most of us are used to doing that. I am guilty of that myself. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. On my day off. So Wednesdays and Saturdays is when I will grab my phone before I get up. But when I'm getting ready for the gym, I don't touch it, But don't touch your phone for the first 20 minutes, okay? Move your body first. Make sure that you drink some water, okay? Yes, drink some water. And set some intentions for your day. Be intentional about the day. Be mindful and look at the things that you're doing. Because that first hour of the day really sets the tone for the rest of your day, and you'll see a difference. Okay. And here's another thing that's important is that your circle shapes your standards. Because if you hang around people that complain or they don't work out or they have bad eating habits and they stay up late, and you are in their circle or they're in your circle, however, that can become your baseline. So that's why you have to make sure that your environment, the people that you hang out with, are on the same page as you and striving for, the same thing. We do have to look at our environment because our environment influences us. Okay. Some years ago, I did something about an environmental pillar. It was pretty good. At the time, that was, I don't know, like 6-7 years ago. Actually, it was right before COVID. And but anyway, our environment is important because it does influence us, not in a judgmental way, but it should really be more in a focus on growth way versus something negative. Okay. But here's the thing, without judgment, is that you need to understand is that you are not bad habits. You're not bad at habits. You just are not aware of what habits you need to correct or improve on. So the only way you're going to do that is by being aware of what your habits are. So I would like to hope that every time you put on your shoe or your sock or your footie or whatever it is that you're putting on your foot, that you will think about this conversation that I'm having with you right now. So because I think that when you are aware of it, you'll realize that, you don't just have to have the discipline. Okay. I think that, we have to reframe some of the things that we think and the way we say things. Okay. So reframing your thinking about your habits is, just building a system where you become aware what you do, like what time you brush your teeth, what time you get out the shower, those kind of things. It's, what I'm saying? Because you want to tweak them. And if you could, make them better, then why not? So now you're building a system, so now you're building your habits because now you're developing your, using them, on a daily basis. Healthy habits is definitely a learned skill. Okay. It's not a personality trait, so we do have to understand that, it's not something that we just pay attention to as far as our habits is concerned. It's something that we learn, and we learn it by thinking about putting our shoe on the same foot every day. I mean, just a thought. Okay. But hey, that's, what I believe, and I've proven it time and time again. But before I end the broadcast, I really want you to think about something, okay? Think about yourself, where you're going to be at 5 years from now. I really want you to give that some serious thought. I want you to think about that version of you. Are you going to be stronger, wiser, more confident, more at peace? Or are you going to be more tired, more frustrated, and still saying, I'll start next week? See, both versions are built the same exact way. Both versions are built the same way. One day at a time. The difference isn't talent. It isn't a gimmick. It isn't luck. Is standards. healthy habits really isn't a punishment. I know people think it's like, oh my God, I got to do this. It's like, nobody's trying to punish you. It's for your betterment. You know, my grandmother, when we would get, well, let me say spanking. When we would get spankings, my grandmother would say, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. And for the life of me, I couldn't understand why, since I was the one getting the spanking. But I realized, you know, as I got older that, you know, it wasn't punishment. And I'm not saying it was a habit. I'm just saying it wasn't punishment. So it was just that just kind of came to my mind. And so, but it wasn't a punishment. So we shouldn't look at healthy habits as a punishment. And, you know, my grandmother only disciplined us. She only spanked us as a form of discipline when we needed it. It wasn't a habit, but it was a healthy habit. I can say that, okay? You know, she didn't just beat us, you know, it was from a healthy place, okay? Let me just say that, okay? And of course, she was living according to scripture as well. So, you know, she wasn't trying to spoil no child. So, but anyway, I think that, you know, that's proof that, you know, that you and your belief system matters when it comes to your habits. You know, I think that you do have to change what you believe about your habits, because if you have, you know, a mindset and belief system that, you know, it's all good, then, you know, then that's how it's going to be. But understand that your habits is what forms your entire life. Okay. So, you know, think about those things, you know, whether it's going for a walk, you know, going to bed earlier, drinking more water. It's about leading yourself, okay? You need to make a decision, and that's what you're going to do. You don't need a complete overhaul in your life starting tomorrow. You just need to win at making some decisions, small decisions, not next year, not next month, not next week. You know, you need to make the best choice for you right now, okay? Because the next choice is your best choice, okay? You got to build the momentum. You got to protect it, and you got to respect it. Because every time you follow through, you are building trust in yourself, and that's important. Self-trust is important because you are saying to yourself, I am making myself a promise, and I'm going to live up to what I say, because the reward is worth it, okay? And it changes everything. It's a different game. I can guarantee you it's a different game. Having your health and your strength is a different game than not having it, you know? I don't take it for granted, and if you're healthy, you shouldn't take it for granted either, because there's people out here that is your age and my age, and they are on oxygen, you know. Some people even younger, you know. I have a friend of mine, and I want to say he's probably in his 40s, maybe 50s, and he, with congested heart failure. So, I don't take it for granted. And if you're healthy, you shouldn't either. So that's why you should refuse to quit on yourself. Your future self is watching, and your future self needs to make sure that you're making the right decisions for your healthy habits, because I promise you it will pay off. Don't worry about motivation. Look at the big momentum. That's where you're going to get your results from, the momentum. When you build up momentum, I can guarantee you're going to see results. Once you see those results, you're going to want more results and more results. Hey, that's what I have for you today. Thank you for spending time with me. If this episode has blessed you, share it with someone who may be on their wellness journey or looking to become on their wellness journey. Also, make sure that you subscribe to my channel so that every time I drop an episode, you will be notified. And before I get out of here, of course, I got to give a shout out to all my listeners around the world. Here in the United States, Canada, Australia, Russia Federation, China, Mexico, Belgium, Ireland, South Africa, Brazil, Nigeria, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Bangladesh, Ukraine, Kuwait, India, Hong Kong, Dominican Republic, Philippines, Barbados, Saudi Arabia, Spain, Japan, Indonesia, Pakistan, Portugal, Netherlands, Singapore, Peru, Samoa, Finland, UAE, Lithuania, Chile, Denmark, Vietnam, and Switzerland. Until next time, keep shifting your mind, caring for your body, and nurturing your soul. I'm Coach G, and I will see you on the next level.